Hey there folks, so welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the second solo album from Selena Gomez, titled Revival. You know, last time I talked about Selena Gomez at length, it didn't really go very well. Now, to be fair, it was one of the first ever video reviews that I had ever done. Still extremely new to the format, and I went in with a lengthy cultural digression about appropriation coming off the lead-off single Come and Get It. Believe it or not, I thought it might be indicative of Selena Gomez's new direction as a pop star, and yet it turned out I really didn't have to go into that much depth because Stars Dance was atrocious. Now, granted, most people would say expecting anything of quality out of Selena Gomez is probably asking too much, especially considering she didn't write that album, but considering how much I did like some of the work that she had done with her backing band, The Scene, Stars Dance is a shockingly big drop in quality pretty much across the board, from her phoned-in vocals, the cheap by-the-numbers production that tried and failed to position her as an electronic diva, to the lyrics that alternate between being bland and kinda asinine. There was nothing that I could recommend about that album, and for once, the majority of critics seemed to kind of agree with me. But I think the largest problem that went unnoticed, even by me at that time, was about Stars Dance how anonymous it felt. Say what you will about Demi Lovato or Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande or especially Miley, they at least have a distinctive persona behind their music that's only been further honed and refined with age. Yet Selena has always seemed a little bit lost in what she wants to be as a pop star, defaulting to a pale Rihanna imitation almost by default. And yet, believe it or not, I actually had some hope for her sophomore album, Revival. Not only was Good For You a surprisingly strong song with A$AP Rocky, but she had the majority of the writing credits on her new album too, as if this album was more personal, mostly tied to the highly publicized ugly breakup with Justin Bieber, a stint in rehab, and the falling out that she had with Demi Lovato. At the very least, I didn't expect her to nuke her career like Miley did with that 90-minute disaster that's already been forgotten by pretty much everybody. So what did we get with Revival? Well, it's okay, I guess. I don't know, guys. I've been sitting on this review for a good 4 or 5 days now, hoping that I'd warm up to this album or cool down a little bit, get some passion to really get worked up about it, but instead I just get a feeling of profound boredom and a little bit of confusion, as Revival's kind of all over the place, and I still don't get the impression that Selena Gomez has a firm idea on what she wants to do as an artist. And yet the bizarre thing is I wouldn't say this record lacks cohesion in terms of its instrumentation and sound. This feels kind of tepid and bland to me, just saying. And you know, part of the problem is Selena Gomez herself. And look, in the pantheon of vocal talent and pop music right now, Selena's not even close to the top, let's be honest here. She's not nearly as expressive or emotive, and when her voice breaks and goes off key, as it inevitably does, it doesn't so much sound raw as it does sound sloppy and inexperienced, which blows my mind, because you'd think that Disney conditioning would have ironed out those problems years ago. Now that being said, there are places where Selena's delivery does work for her. Good For You proves that she's stuck with slinkier, darker tracks where she's required to coo more than belt. It's a more natural fit, and her lower range actually sounds pretty good. That said, when you have songs like Dance to Myself, which strips down the vocal production back to the bare minimum, you can tell she doesn't exactly have a huge amount to work with, and that can be kind of a problem going forward. Granted, part of this ties back to the instrumentation and production, where I don't think anybody had the slightest clue where they want to take this album as a whole, as it flips between more straightforward pop music, track-flavored electronic dance, bits of vintage R&B and Baroque pop, and even some of the world music touches that felt weird on Stars Dance that feel all the weirder and out of place here. Part of this is a production issue. Many of the synths and guitar tones feel so washed out and reverb or so oily that they stand out like a sore thumb. That'd be your songs like Same Old Love, but then you pair it with the sparse snaps of modern hip-hop, beats that have a little bit more grit than you usually expect and really don't really fit here, or filters that almost feel lo-fi. The clash is jarring, and not in a good way, but also not in an interesting way either, as it makes the mix feel cluttered and clumsy and almost a little amateurish, overmixed and undermixed at the same time. The funny thing is that when this album actually goes to one of the two extremes and either overmixes it or completely strips back, like the gothic opulence on Good For You with A$AP Rocky on instrumentation that might as well have come out of Long Last A$AP and sounds pretty damn great for it, or the very sparse piano with only hints of reverb on Camouflage, those are very good songs that I actually like. But beyond that, I've already talked on Billboard Breakdown how the synth tone does not fit at all on Same Old Love, but then you have the buried melody beneath the vocal fragments and glitchier beat on Sober, the reggae-esque tinny tone on Me and the Rhythm, that stab at world music inspired chorus on Rise that makes no swell whatsoever and no crescendo, and most misguided at all, that stab at Spanish guitar and that really cheap sounding horn preset on Body Heat. Most of this track doesn't work because Selena is just much better at playing restraint than Latin seductress, but more than anything, it screams at being a wannabe Shakira track, and it just does not come together or is remotely believable. And you know what? It reflects the big lyrical issues underscoring this album, and that's mostly because for as traumatic as Selena has described her past experiences that inspired this album, I get little to no no lyrical impact. Part of this is that Selena can come across as very submissive in her writing, because even when the relationship is bad, like on Sober or Same Old Love, you don't see her taking a lot of the agency to fix things. And believe it or not, it's not always a misstep here, because those songs aren't framed as being romantic or attractive much at all. But the one time it is being on Good For You, it's clearly clear that she's got more control of the situation. Hell, even A$AP Rocky says he's not gonna mess up her image. Frankly, it's the song that 50 Shades of Grey wished that it had, whenever The Weeknd churned out. But then this album also wants to have the inspirational moments like Revival and Survivors and Rise that really don't do much beyond cliche. And then portray Selena as more of a sex-hungry temptress on Body Heat or Hands to Myself. And while I can kind of see it working in the first case, it's not remotely believable in the latter. And then there's Kill 'Em With Kindness, which is supposed to reflect putting forward positivity in face of the haters, another self-esteem anthem, but it feels like a forced mask to me. And that's arguably the root of the problem that I have with this album. It feels like so much of a pose and an act. And so considering this is supposed to be her most personal album to date, that's how it's advertised, that's a bit of a problem. But maybe it's not even that. Maybe it feels like an act because I'm expecting more out of Selena Gomez, more depth, more personal material, and I'm just not getting it from her because maybe this is all she wants to give, and maybe that's all she can give. So you know what, in the end, at the time of this recording, Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber may be over for good, but really, I'm seeing a lot in common in their most recent output. It's passable, but tepid, and generally completely boring. The more I've delved into this record, the more I've realized that Selena might be maturing as an artist and taking more control of her career, but this record feels too guarded and lacking in will to push it towards something that will actually stick with me more, have more emotional impact. Thus, for me, it's a solid 5 out of 10, and I guess it's a recommendation if you're a fan of Selena Gomez. It is better than Stars Dance, but then again, I once was a fan of Selena Gomez, and this just does nothing for me, so keep that in mind. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. Anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation or any other albums coming out that you want me to take a look at, I will try to give them a listen. But folks, my schedule is so crammed up right now, I doubt I'll be able to cover much at all. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.